So today we'll talk about presence a little bit more, probably hear that a lot these days, it's being present and being in the present moment. A lot of us might hear that and it's very easy to think, of course, I'm present and thinking and then doing and present, but we're talking about a different kind of being present than just simply being there. Sounds simple, this idea of being present, but it's really the most fundamental and powerful tool that you can have when you're managing and healing anxiety is coming back to being present because that's actually where your power lies is present moment. So learning how to come back to the present is it's the pillar of everything that we're going to do from here on out is all about coming back to being present. Today, we want to understand how anxiety pulls you out of the present and how we can come back to reconnect with what's actually happening right now. And here's the trick, of course, there's always a little nuance here is how do we do that without judgment or resistance? So it's not just being present, it's being present without judgment or resistance. Yes, and easier said than done. Okay, so we want to talk about how this relates to anxiety. Okay. Just look back on your own experience of anxiety. And most of the time, it's either a future oriented experience or you're thinking about the past. For the future oriented thinking, the future oriented anxiety is all about what if and worst case scenarios, generally speaking, right? We go, what if this happens? What if that happens? We're perceiving potential threats. And so that's where our mind goes. Okay. So think about that being its own train. That's the train toward the future. And it just branches off into an infinite amount of what if worst case scenarios. And that's where it's going to go. Okay. And if you're taking the other train and you go to the train on harping on the past and thinking about what could have been and what should have been and all that's infinite number of train lines in that direction also. So the further that we get on those trains, the more difficult it is to come back to the present and actually ground ourselves again and feel what's happening. So if you just think about the last time that you were anxious, think about mental activity that was happening and just see what was happening. What kind of thoughts were you having? Right. So this week, what we want to look at is what percentage of your thoughts go toward the future or the past in kind of an unnecessary way. We do need to use our minds to plan. Obviously, when we're planning, we think about the future, but we're talking about the unnecessary mental activity that causes the suffering of anxiety. Let's just try to get a gauge of that. Scan the last 24 hours. How much of your mind has been present here is in the past or in the future? And try to get it down to a number just so that you have a clear idea of what that is. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that 50% of your anxiety is from the habits of the mind, and then the other 50% might be habits from the body. It works both ways, but let's just say. So let's just say you can take care of 50% of your anxiety just by training the mind, just by bringing the mind and training it to come back to the present moment. Because again, all of anxiety is actually based in the not present. It's inherently not what is happening now. Okay. Why then do we feel resistance or overwhelm or panic in the moment? Why do we have that happen? It's primarily because of the resistance to the present moment, resistance to what we're feeling. We've talked about this before, but I just want to, some of these things we need to revisit and reinforce and really get integrated. All right, here's the train. We hop on the future train, let's say, and the train starts going. And then once we get on the train, the feelings about those anxiety start going and we want it to stop. But instead of getting off the train, we just like spin around in circles. We don't actually get off the train, right? So we want it to go away. And then obviously the harder that we try to stop it, the stronger it becomes. instead of doing that, instead of fighting it, can you say yes to the present moment, even if it's uncomfortable? We just went through that in the last training in the group and say yes to the present moment. And then we say yes to discomfort. So if you forget all the things that we talk about, that's the basis of it. Can you say yes to the present moment? And can you say yes to the discomfort of the present moment? Anxiety stops when we just let ourselves be present. The further that we get on the train, the more anxious we are. So it's a skill that we're developing here, like riding a bike. When you're first learning how to ride a bike, you fall way over to the right, don't adjust quick enough, and then you crash, right? Where you go to the left too much and you don't recognize that you've gone that far to the left and then you crash. So when you ride a bike, you're actually constantly making these micro adjustments of your balance. You start automatically knowing, okay, this is too far to the right, I need to bring it back. Too far to the left, back. So it's exactly like that with the mind, where we're training the mind how to stay present. So right away, when the mind starts going into anxiety about the future or thoughts about the future, the what if scenarios, or it goes into the, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. We notice it right away. And then the mind just can rest. At a certain point, riding a bike is easy, but it doesn't start out that way. So that's what we're learning. It's a skill that we're learning. If you master that, then your anxiety will just immediately go straight down. Because just the inherent nature of anxiety itself is when the mind goes this way or that way. That makes sense? You guys following? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And this is where this is so powerful. You see how this is the foundation of all the other work that we're going to be able to do
Yeah.
in terms of noticing our past and when we project onto the present, healing old wounds, being in touch with what's happening on a deeper level. We can't do that kind of work if the mind is just all over the place. There's no space for that to happen. So this is the first thing that we tackle. The first kind of thing that we want to develop is a little more control over the mind. And that doesn't mean that we need to eliminate our thoughts. That's a big misconception about meditation, mindfulness, or being present. It's about noticing what your thoughts are and when your thoughts are running out to the future or the present, and being able to let go of that and just come back to the present moment. So that's pretty easily trained. It's just like going to the gym and getting on the treadmill or doing bicep curls or bench presses or whatever people do at the gym, because they're working a certain kind of muscle group. So you think of that as training for the mind. So how often do you go to the gym for your mind? Do you show up on the meditation mat every day? If you don't show up at the gym, work your muscle groups, you're not going to see any difference. So that's the importance of showing up for a practice, and also practicing on a daily basis, even if it's 5, 10 minutes a day. All right. So you need to be able to get off the train. The way to get off the train, one way to do it, you guys might have heard this before, is the five senses practice. You guys know this one? So
No.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? Say when you can open your eyes and you notice five things around you. Okay. So you notice shapes, maybe colors, and we can do this now. We just get a sense, you practice. So just look around and see five specific concrete things, right? Five, it could be shape, it could be color, it could be texture, and just slow it down. We're not judging anything. We're just being observant. Okay. Notice four things that you can feel, right? So maybe your feet on the floor, temperature of the air, feeling of the clothes against your skin, where your hands are, and really take it in. Next, you can listen for three sounds, three different sounds that you hear. Could be distant or close, could be loud or quiet, could actually just be silence. And now notice two things that you smell. Could be the absence of smell, could be your shirt. You could just simply, if you don't detect anything, that's fine. Could just focus on your breath, focus on where your nose is and the air going through your nose. And finally, notice one thing that you can taste. Could just be getting in touch with the taste of your saliva or your mouth after taste of a drink or something. Now, just pay attention to the quality of your experience of the present moment when you're in touch with these physical senses. You can loop this to just do another round if it's helpful. There's some certain kind of things where we want to just red flag. Oh, is my mind going somewhere? Just in our language, right? We say what ifs, right? And shoulds, woulda, shoulda, coulda, what if. These are all watch out words that indicate that our minds might be boarding a train. So we just want to watch out for those and come back to where we are. Yeah. So a couple of ways. If you're committed to change, if you're committed to really working through your anxiety, we actually need to commit to a practice where you're committing to a time and space to do this, right? It needs to be physical. So just choose a time and a space where you're practicing either this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise or just bringing your attention back to your breathing and just do it for 5 minutes to start. We want to get into the rhythm of doing that. It's like going to the gym or going to a yoga class. Like you have to show up in order to do it. So it's the same thing with this. And then the practical in the moment thing that you can do is, okay, if you're feeling anxious, notice where the mind is and then bring it back. That's where we put what we practice, the muscle that we're developing in meditation. That's when it really comes in handy. So we do have to have a mental gym that we're going to practice those until we get strong enough. And then you start to see that application in your life.